All right. I want to make a quick video. I want to show the best settings for Xbox Series X on the LG B5 OLED. These are my settings. And after a lot of tweaking, I think that I found the right, you know, the right balance. So this I'm going to show both HDR and Dolby Vision. So first and foremost, let me go to the home screen and let me click on the game. And as you see in the top right, it shows HDR. So for HDR, and I'm using Game Optimizer mode, and I haven't really found depending on the type of game you could. I think for a game like, for example, Assassin's Creed here, I think RPG, as you could see, if you look at say FPS, it brightens it. Standard, I think you could see the backgrounds a little better, a little more detail in say FPS mode. So as you see here, shows that VRR is on, 120 frames per second mode on, HDR on, and a 4K resolution. And so again, as proof, let's go to settings, TV and display options, and you see 4K and 120 hertz. All right. So under game mode, first and foremost, um, you know, click on Game Optimizer, and under game here, I turn off reduce blue light, dark room mode. I don't that's pretty pointless. So input lag delay, I put on boost instead of standard. Input lag is always going to be good. Game dashboard on, VRR and G Sync on, quick frame transport. I'm not sure what this is, and I don't know if it what it does. I'm gotta research it a bit more. But when I had it on, I didn't notice anything. I have AMD FreeSync Premium off because sometimes you get this jittery screen when playing games with this on, and I found that turning it off was the solution. ALM auto low latency mode, keep this on. This is one of the best features there is, that's going to just make playing games smooth. Fine tune dark areas I have on zero. And then, so under picture, black stabilizer 10, white stabilizer 10. Now it switches. Um, for example, I think it switches if you click on say, see FPS mode bumps it up to 13, right? But I pretty much mostly keep it on RPG. Also found um, standard to look good as well. Game contrast 100, game black level 50, sharpness, turn down sharpness to about 5. You don't need it that as high as 25. You don't need it that high. Game color depth, uh, 65. I think that this is the was kind of being nighttime in the game, so the colors might be a little hard to see, but I think it hits the right color balance. Yeah, let's look at Yasuke here. You see, if you see how good the red and the gold looks, I think 65 is the right color balance. Um, I've seen others that like it on 50, because I think 50 kind of gives it a probably the most realistic. I kind of like HDR to have a little punch to it. So as you see, down to 50 also looks pretty good. On camera, I think it looks better than it's shown on TV. But yeah, so 50, no higher than 65 for that. Just a little color saturation adds a lot to these worlds, in my opinion. All right, and under sound, Dolby Atmos, keep that on. All right, so there's that, and under picture, go to advanced settings. Under brightness, OLED pixel brightness at 100. Dynamic tone mapping. So I put it on HGIG. On, as you see, brightens it, right? And you might think the brighter the better, but it off. I put it on HGIG. I think HGIG is the right. You know, when you see it in real time, you're going to see how balanced it out the colors. And yeah, but yeah, on looks good, but it's going sometimes things are going to be a little too bright. So HEIG I think is perfect for dynamic tone mapping. And this is just for people who, like me, you like gaming. By the way, video range, I like it on limited. You see full kinds of grays it out. Auto's all right, but limited, everything's going to look amazing under limited. And that's your settings there. All right. So remember, this is for the LG B5 HDMI mode. And look at that. All right, this is how great these games are looking. And also, I want to show, so the settings that I'm playing on with Assassin's Creed is balance. So it mixes the quality and 40 FPS frame rate. I think is what it's trying to hit. I like that a lot. I like how that looks a lot. And every display port supports it, right? Every display port supports it. There we go. And look how great it looks. Look how great that looks. All right, let me pause it there though because I attacked the dude before the cutscene. But yeah, that's HDR. Now I'm going to show SDR as well. Okay. So in the top right, now you see it says Dolby Vision. So this is my settings for playing on Dolby Vision here. Again, same TV, LG B5 OLED. And here are the settings that I use for Dolby Vision gaming. Alright, so as you see, a lot of the same here. Turn off blue light, input lag boost. Even though it's grayed out, so you turn it on in HDR. It's grayed out in Dolby Vision. Game dashboard. Game dashboard. I mean that VRR and G-Sync on. AMD FreeSync, like I said, it gives me issues when playing. It could have the screen just gets real choppy. I don't know what that's about. It was working fine, but LG did an update, and it's been ruined since. And of course, keep all auto low latency mode. Always keep that on. So the picture, again, since it's under RPG for which I use most of the time, black stabilizer. Now you could adjust these as you want, but I think how it is 10 for both is great. Game contrast 10, game black level 50, sharpness, put that down to 5, and color depth 65. And again, between 50 and 65, however you like it, is going to look great. I like, so, and you know what? As you see here, I actually like 50 on Dolby Vision. Yeah, I think 50 looks good on Dolby Vision now that I'm looking at it. So you can put that between 50 and 65. You don't want it too high. The colors get overly saturated and it looks a little cartoony. But you also want that punch. You want that punch when gaming. And under sound, make sure Dolby Atmos is on. And then under picture, advanced settings, Brightness, make sure that's 100. White balance, warm 40. And I forgot to show it under HDR, but also put it on warm 40 for HDR as well. Um, you know, put it on warm 40 for both HDR and Dolby Vision. And I said SDR earlier. I don't mean SDR, I meant Dolby Vision. Yeah, and I think that's it. So yeah, so those are my settings for both HDR and SDR gameplay. As you see, the game looks absolutely phenomenal, right? It's- Sorry for playing like trash here, but as you see, just looks absolutely brilliant. And this is the Xbox Series X I'm playing on. Ooh, yeah, I died there, but I was just playing to show you how great the game looks, both HDR and SDR. You can't go wrong with either one, whatever your preference is. I think both looks fantastic. But yeah, those are the settings I think are the ideal settings for these OLED TVs, the LG OLED TVs, for just amazing gameplay and for 4K and a lot of 4K. Yeah, it's upscaled, but it still looks brilliant. 120 frames per second and all this other bells and whistles that come with these consoles. So let me know what you guys think, and I'm out.